Cost of capital, problem 3. Here we're going to calculate the weights given the weighted average cost of capital. So if a company's after-tax cost of debt is 4.5, its cost of equity is 10%, and the WACC is 8%, what proportion of its $50 million capital is equity? So we're going to use the WACC equation to figure out the proportions or the weights of equity and debt. Now, first things we do is we label. The 4.5 is going to be the after-tax cost of debt. That is RD times 1 minus T because it says after tax. So we don't know T, we don't exactly know RD either, but it doesn't matter. We don't need to know it for the purposes of this question. 10% is the cost of equity, and the $50 million capital is the total amount of debt plus equity. As it turns out, we don't actually need to know this in order to calculate the proportion of the capital, which is equity, because we're only wanting to know what's the balance, the ratio of D and E to the total amount of capital. Nevertheless, it's 50 million. So, in order to calculate this, we're going to need to come to remember that the weights add up to 1. So that we're going to solve for one of the either WD or WE. I've chosen, you'll see, WE. And we can substitute, instead of WD, 1 minus WE because the weights add up to 1. So if debt is 40%, equity 60%. If debt is 30%, equity 70%. So that's how it'll work. Now, just using for WACC, it's WERE plus WDRD. Now, RD times 1 minus T, that's the after-tax cost of debt, after-tax cost of equity, so we have that. And that's just simply the equation here. So we know the WACC is 8%, and we know these things. Now here we have one equation, two unknowns, but now we're going to take advantage of the fact that we can replace one of the weights, and then that will result in this equation here. Now with that equation we can solve and rearrange, and we have 8 equals 10 minus 4.5 WE. Okay, and then we're going to take this 4.5, move it over to that side, so we're subtracting it. And so in other words, 8 minus 4.5 is 5.5, and that'll give us 3.5 is 5.5 WE, which means the weight of equity is 0.6364, which means the weight of debt is 1 minus that, so 0.3636. And that is the relationship. So as for what they're asking, the proportion of capital, which is equity, it's 63.64%. Given that they've told us how much capital there is, we can say that's $31.81 or $82 million, which is equity. That's it. Thank you for paying attention, and I hope that helps.